Hello and welcome to day 30. And today we will be starting a new book of the Bible, the second book of the Bible, and we've completed two books. Um, the first book we completed was Job. We started Genesis, we went to Job, and then we came back to Genesis and we just finished it. So we will be starting on Exodus, which will be the third book that we visited. And but I'm gonna do a quick little intro covering Genesis. Um, so Genesis first starts with creation of the world. Um, God in three forms: God the Spirit, God the Father, and God the Son are there at the beginning. They're together, and they form the whole world. So then, as we know, part of creation, God creates man. So in Genesis 26, it says, "Then God said, 'Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth.' So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. And God blessed them and said to them, 'Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on the earth.'" So we have creation of the earth, uh, creation of the heavens, the plants, the animals. God creates man. God creates woman to be with man, and that's the beginning. And then we have the fall, where Satan, in the form of the snake, deceives the woman and the man to disobey God. Uh, so part of the beginning there is God creates a promise to the man to go forth and multiply and cover the earth and subdue it. But then after the fall, after the first sin, God curses. So first he gives a blessing and a direction for man. But then after sin, he gives a curse. First he curses the serpent and the woman. He curses the serpent that he will crawl on the earth, eat dust. Curses the woman with multiplying pain and childbirth. And then I just learned this in this reading so far. God does not curse man. He does not curse Adam. Instead, God curses the ground. Now, Adam and Eve were already commanded to take care of the garden. That was their job. That's what they had been put on, and Garden of Eden was perfect. So they were already taking care of the plants and the animals, and God had already gave them a blessing and a plan to go forth and multiply and fill the earth, which at that point was just Eden. But so God's curse was on the ground, and I'll read it here in Genesis 3:17. And to Adam he said, because you have listened to your wife and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In pain you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you. And you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground. For out of it you were taken, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. So I thought that was interesting. I always thought that God gave a curse to man, but a little nuance I picked up was that he cursed the ground, and that because Adam was to work the ground, that his work was going to be a toil and a struggle. So going on, we have man going into the earth. We have Cain and Abel. We have the first murder. Then we have Seth. We have people call after Seth had his son. To Seth also a son was born, and he called his name Enosh. At that time, the people began to call upon the name of the Lord. So further on in Genesis, I start seeing that there are people that call upon the Lord and follow the Lord and find favor in the Lord. And then there are people that go their own way. And what I start seeing is the Lord draws close to the people who are walking with him, who are being his friend. He gives them blessings. And the people that don't call on the Lord, they end up being cursed or killed. And we see that leading up to the flood, post-flood with the Tower of Babel, with Sodom and Gomorrah. We see God creating blessings and covenants with Noah and with Abram, who's changed to, his name is changed to Abraham. Sarai changed to Sarah. God forms a covenant and delivers offspring. We see that with Isaac, Jacob, who becomes Israel. We see it also with Joseph, and that's kind of where we end Genesis, is with Joseph. Joseph dying, and that the Israelites are going to continue on from there. But we start seeing promises and covenants between God and man, and we see forgiveness of people who are sinning. We have Noah. I found that also interesting. Was let's see if I can find it here. Okay, so Genesis 9:20. I found this real interesting. So Noah began to be a man of the soil, and he planted a vineyard. He drank of the wine and became drunk, and lay uncovered in his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his two brothers outside. Then Shem and Japheth took a garment, laid it on their shoulders, and walked backward and covered the nakedness of their father. So, the interesting thing that I saw there was Noah began to be a man of the soil. So, um, that struck me because um, Noah was becoming worldly. Noah was spared because he was walking with God. He was faithful to God, and he was blameless. Uh, but Noah began to be a man of the soil, and he planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine and became drunk, and lay uncovered in his tent. So Noah began to depart from God, is kind of what I was seeing. But God had already formed a covenant with Noah. So God's covenant with Noah was that he wouldn't destroy man. His covenant was that Noah was to fill the earth again. So God made a covenant and a blessing and a plan uh, between him and Noah, and God was going to fulfill that. Despite his sin, he was going to forgive Noah's sin. Same with Lot. Lot was living in Sodom and Gomorrah, and Abram saved Lot. He convinced God to save anybody who even had a little bit of righteousness, and that's kind of what I was starting to see, was people that were doing their best in their sinful ways to follow God, to walk with God, and they were still sinning. Even Abram's going through the land, saying, "It's not my wife, it's my sister." It's got to be sin, right? He's bringing curses on these kings and people who think that this is just his sister, so they hit on her, they pursue her, and they start getting curses and think destruction coming towards them, or they didn't, and they realized how close they were, that they were going to upset God by going after a married woman. So you start seeing that people who draw close to God, form covenants with God, that they still they're given grace, that they sin, and that their sin goes unpunished because they formed a relationship with God. And that's early hints towards what we later know, or if you're a baby Christian or not a Christian yet, that you'll see and learn is that if you form a relationship with God, you do your best and try and avoid sin, you will form a relationship with God. Now, we ultimately know that we need to form a relationship, a perfect relationship through Christ, Um, but as I said, there's much more to go through the Bible. We're only 2 books in, covering just our 3rd book. So we have more to see. But early indications in the Bible sets the pattern. Pursue God, form a relationship with Him, establish a covenant with Him, be forgiven of your sins. We are going to fail. We need forgiveness and grace. And you can see that early on in the Bible, all the way back in Genesis, which ultimately is a story leading up to learning about God's Son and how He came to redeem us and allow us to return to a perfect relationship with His Father. So that's my intro. We will continue on with Exodus.